Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Donald Trump cannot stop talking about the India-Pakistan conflict, but whose side is he on? A new report exposes his links with Pakistan. Trump's family signed a deal with Pakistan after the Pahalgam attack. We'll tell you what it's about and what it means for India. Meanwhile, Pakistan is striking on multiple fronts. A new report in India's Supreme Court shows how they're using drugs to cripple India. Broke Pakistan is compensating terrorist Masood Azhar after the Indian military killed his family in Operation Sindoor. The IMF should watch this report and see where their money is going. India tells the United Nations to supervise Pakistani nukes. But can they do it? Why is Turkish President Erdogan backing Pakistan? How India is looking for the Pahalgam attackers. 3 Jaish terrorists were killed today. How China has sent a spy ship to snoop on India's Operation Sindoor. What is the Republic of Balochistan? The movement that is gathering steam as Pakistan's biggest province revolts. The highlights of Donald Trump's visit to Qatar with a grand welcome and jet deals. And an update on the Ukraine-Russia talks in Turkey. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Estonia accuses Russia of posing a serious threat to NATO after a Russian fighter jet violated the Baltic countries' airspace. Since the Ukraine war began in 2022, Estonia has been a staunch ally of Kiev. Tallinn has also boosted its maritime security following attacks on vital infrastructure on the Baltic seafloor. Israeli strikes and shelling kill over 100 people in Gaza. Earlier this month, the Netanyahu government approved plans to expand its offensive in Gaza. Since March, Israel has blocked all aid from reaching the war-torn strip. In the West Bank, Israeli troops killed 5 Palestinians during raids. Israel claims that these raids targeted hideouts of terrorists. The UK wants to set up return hubs for failed asylum seekers. London is in talks with different countries about it. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is under pressure to bring down immigration. Last July, he abandoned a Conservative Party scheme to deport undocumented migrants to Rwanda. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa to meet Donald Trump next week. The two leaders will hold talks in Washington amid strained ties. Just days ago, the US resettled a group of white South Africans who Trump claims have been persecuted by Pretoria. Ramaphosa has denied the accusation. And New Zealand set to suspend Maori lawmakers over a Haka protest. In November, a Maori Party MP derailed Parliament and ripped a copy of a contentious race bill into half while performing a traditional chant. She was joined by her party leaders. New Zealand's Parliament will vote on suspending these lawmakers next week. Donald Trump is a great guy to have on your side. He's daring and unpredictable. But if he plays for the rival team, then he can be a nightmare to deal with. Right now, many Indians would agree with that. They're wondering, is US President Trump on Team Pakistan? Take a look at the latest hint. Pakistan has struck a deal. And this is the government of Pakistan. They have struck a deal with a firm called World Liberty Financial. World Liberty Financial, that's a company. It's basically a cryptocurrency deal. The goal is to turn Pakistan into a South Asian crypto hub. Now, it's a confusing move, to be honest. Last we checked, the IMF does not give loans in Bitcoin. So why would Pakistan need crypto? And that's not the only suspicious part. Guess who owns this firm? Who owns World Liberty Financial, the company they've signed a deal with? It is owned by the Trump family. They hold a 60% stake in this company, the US president's family, his two sons and his son-in-law. How did they get this deal with Pakistan? Reports say it was pushed by Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff. He's a long-time golf buddy of the US president. With no background in policy making, he is now leading America's policy on Russia and Israel. His only qualification is that he's played a lot of golf with Trump. And this man, Steve Witkoff, struck a crypto deal with Pakistan, between Trump's family and Pakistan. Suspicious, isn't it? Especially when you look at the timing. This deal was signed after the Pahalgam terror attack. So the Trump family knew what was happening, and yet they went ahead. Their delegates met Pakistan's army chief and prime minister, and only after that was the deal signed. Like I said, it is quite fishy. Now add to that the US president's meddling. Donald Trump will not stop talking about Kashmir. He's in West Asia right now. And once again, he boasted about mediating a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Listen to this.
And by the way, I don't want to say I did, but I sure as hell helped settle the problem between Pakistan and India last week, which was getting more and more hostile. And we talked to them about trade. Let's do trade instead of do war. And Pakistan was very happy with that, and India was very happy with that. And how long have you been fighting? About 1,000 years. Oh, that's a lot. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about settling. That's a tough one.
The amount of ignorance out there. Like we've said before, the Kashmir issue is not thousands of years old. It dates back to 1947. Also, what's this obsession with trade? Kashmir is a deeply emotional issue for India and Pakistan. You think they would settle it over trade? Pakistan may need the money, but India is under no such pressure. Today, Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar made India's position clear. All dealings with Pakistan will be bilateral.
Our relations, our dealings with them will be bilateral and strictly bilateral. That is a national consensus for many years, and there is absolutely no change in that consensus that dealings with Pakistan will be bilateral.
That's a polite way of saying stay away. But knowing Trump, he won't. He is known for making such wild unilateral claims. Take trade, for example. Trump says India is offering zero tariffs to America, basically no tariffs on US imports. Just one problem though, India has not announced any such move or offer. Again, the clarification came from Minister Jaishankar.
Any trade deal has to be mutually beneficial. Any trade deal has to work for both the countries. And I think that would be our expectation from the trade deal. And until that is done, I think any judgment on it would be premature.
India says any judgment would be premature, but that is not stopping Trump. He's also threatening companies against making in India, companies like Apple. Apple was thinking about setting up factories in India. Trump's tariffs made China unsustainable, so Apple thought, why not make in India? But US President Donald Trump says he will not allow it.
I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India. You can build in India if you want to take care of India, because India is one of the highest tariff nations in the world. It's very hard to sell into India.
In baseball, there are 3 strikes. Trump has used them up in just 1 week. First, he claimed credit for ending the fighting between India and Pakistan. Then he unilaterally claimed zero tariffs from India. Then he warned Apple against making in India. And now we get news of his family striking a deal with Pakistan, which brings me back to my original question. Whose side is Donald Trump on? Personally, we know he's on the side of money. Look at his dealings in West Asia. Trump is taking a $400 million plane from Qatar. He's calling it a personal gift, but let's be honest, it is a bribe. And this Pakistani crypto deal is not very different. Many experts in Pakistan say it doesn't make sense at all. Let me quote from an article in the Dawn newspaper. This is what it says. Pakistan's rapid embrace of digital currencies appears to be a leap before looking. It appears to be driven by a desire to mirror the success stories of other emerging markets rather than by a clear-eyed assessment of its own regulatory readiness. They're saying Pakistan is not ready for this. So Pakistan is in a sudden hurry to embrace crypto even though it's not ready. And they have entrusted the Trumps to do it. But that alone does not explain the American policy. They have long-standing ties with Pakistan, the Americans, ties that date back to the Cold War. Even today, Pakistan is a major non-NATO ally of the United States. There's a cozy relationship between Pakistan's generals and America's deep state. And indications are that that won't change. So it's up to India to respond. Should India rethink its ties with the US? Well, not necessarily. For starters, India is not looking for an alliance with Washington. India is looking for a mutually beneficial relationship, sort of like no strings attached. Secondly, we must contextualize America's position. They have always intervened to bail out Pakistan in 1971 in Kargil, in 2019 Balakot, and again last week. The only difference? India-US ties have improved significantly since then. So politicians and the public had higher expectations from the US. The truth is, we shouldn't have. America has always been a shaky partner. I'm sure the Indian leadership knows this well. The solution is not to make a U-turn. The solution is to be more careful. For example, India is looking for a fifth-generation fighter jet. We want to buy a fifth-generation fighter jet. We have proposals from the US and from Russia. But should we entertain the American proposal now? Can we trust them to supply technology when we need it? These are questions that our leaders must think about. Because Donald Trump will come and go. But can we trust the US establishment? Trump is making the same mistake as his predecessors. He's ignoring Pakistan's terrorism for perceived strategic gains. Meanwhile, the threat from Pakistan is evolving. It's a threat for the whole world, not limited to India. And it's no longer just about terror camps and guns and grenades. Pakistan has opened another front, just as nefarious and deadly. They're using narcotics as a weapon against India. This practice is not new. But the scale at which they're expanding can be devastating. Pakistan is using drugs to fund terrorism and destabilize India, and the Lashkar-e-Toiba is at the center of this. It's the same group that carried out the Pahalgam attack, a Lashkar proxy called TRF. And this is no longer a theory. This is now part of official records. 2 days after the Pahalgam attack, the Supreme Court of India was hearing a case. The court was reviewing a report filed by India's top terror investigation agency. It's called the NIA, the National Investigation Agency. And here's what the NIA said. The Lashkar-e-Toiba is using heroin to finance its activities. And this operation has direct links to the ISI, the infamous intelligence agency of Pakistan, ISI. According to the NIA, the Lashkar's plan has two parts. Part 1, raise money for terrorism. Part 2, ruin lives in India by pushing drugs into India's cities and villages and by targeting India's youth. In fact, Indian investigators have been probing a case since 2021. The NIA, National Investigation Agency, has been probing this for the past 4 years. That's when a big cache of drugs was seized. Whose consignment was it? It was traced to traffickers from Afghanistan. But the money trail led elsewhere. It led to Pakistan, to the Lashkar, and to the ISI. In court, the NIA has confirmed this link. They said that it was the Lashkar-e-Taiba that received money from this consignment. The drugs were hidden inside shipments. They were found along with semi-processed talc and bituminous coal. It is also known as black or soft coal. It is often used in electricity generation. The drugs were hidden in talc and coal. The entire operation was legal on paper. The drugs came through legal channels. The documents, of course, were fake, and shell companies had been created for this. At least 6 such consignments were sent to India. Only the last one was intercepted at Mundra. That was the only one that was caught. The others slipped through. And this was not a local operation. It spanned 4 countries: Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, and the United Arab Emirates. This is how the drugs were moved. First, the consignment went from Afghanistan to Iran's Bandar Abbas port. From there, it was shipped to India. 12 people were actively involved in this operation, and all these people are still at large. They're based in Dubai, Tehran, Kabul, and Karachi. It's quite a complex plan. Of course, it did not take shape overnight. We are talking about drug smuggling using legal trade routes and by exploiting loopholes. This is not easy to pull off. Pakistan has been working on this strategy for decades. Pakistan's ISI has been leading this effort. They've been trafficking drugs for years. In fact, let me tell you a story that dates back to the 90s, when Nawaz Sharif was the Prime Minister. It was his first stint in power. In 1991, he had a meeting. Nawaz Sharif had a meeting with Pakistan's then Army Chief and ISI Director. They wanted money. Pakistan's military wanted money to fund its covert activities. They were running short because some supplies had stopped. You see, in the late 1980s, there was the Soviet-Afghan War. And during that time, the Americans co-opted the ISI. The Americans used Pakistan to supply weapons to the Afghans. And the ISI was their go-between. So the Americans pumped a lot of money into Pakistan. But when that war ended in 1989, the American money also stopped. The ISI still had its networks, but they did not have the same budgets. So they looked for alternatives and they found heroin, the drug. They decided to use it to fund themselves. They decided on trafficking drugs. And this is the plan that they presented to Nawaz Sharif, the Army Chief and the ISI Chief. They shared this plan with Nawaz Sharif, who was Prime Minister then. What was his response? Sharif claims that he rejected the idea, which is a bit of a stretch because we know that Pakistani Prime Ministers do not really have that kind of power. As for the military, they have denied this story completely. But there's enough evidence to show that the blueprint was real and it was executed in the months and years that followed. Observers say that Pakistan's army and the ISI are fully immersed in drug money. Over the years, Indian officials have tracked this nexus. Plus, the drug trade has also evolved. Today, it is a lot more than a source of funds. Today, drugs serve as a weapon that Pakistan uses to attack Kashmir. In fact, let me show you data that was published in 2023. According to this report, there are now 67,000 drug abusers in Kashmir. Over 90% of them are heroin addicts. Where are these drugs coming from? They're coming from Pakistan. The drugs are trafficked through 2 locations, Kupwara and Baramulla. These are border districts of Kashmir. India has been responding to this threat. Security agencies have cracked down on trafficking. In 2022 alone, more than 1,000 cases were filed. More than 1,700 drug peddlers were arrested. Out of these, 138 were high-profile traffickers. But the network built by Pakistani terrorists is far bigger and the challenge for India is far more complex. It's one of the many wars that India must fight against Pakistan.
Pakistan Zindabad! Afwaje Pakistan Zindabad!
Say without any fear of confliction.
What does a bankrupt country do when a global terrorist suffers a personal loss? It compensates him. Pakistan's economy is hanging by a thread. Ordinary people do not have food on the table, but do you know what their government is doing? It is compensating terrorists, especially this man, Masood Azhar, a UN-designated terrorist and the chief of the Jaish-e-Mohammed or JEM. Masood Azhar is wanted by just about every country in the world, but in Pakistan, he is royalty. And they are going to pay him 14 crore rupees. That's 14 crore Pakistani rupees. It's almost 500,000 US dollars. I'll repeat that for you. 500,000 US dollars to Masood Azhar, bankrolled by Pakistan's government. Why? Because 14 members of his family were killed last week when India hit terror camps inside Pakistan. The Jaish headquarters in Bahawalpur were targeted. This is an 18-acre compound in Pakistan's Punjab province. The central building is called the Markaz Subhanallah. It was destroyed by Indian missiles. Several Jaish terrorists were killed and Masood Azhar's family was also wiped out, including his wife, children and elder sister. 14 members. Now, Pakistan's government is mourning Azhar's loss. So they're going to pay him money. 1 crore Pakistani rupees for each family member killed, which brings the total to 14 crores, or as I said, 500,000 US dollars. And this is what India means when it says that Pakistan is a state sponsor of terrorism. Because their government goes all out for terrorists. The Jaish headquarters in Bahawalpur is proof. This campus was made only recently, in 2015. It began with just a mosque, one mosque. By 2024, it was spread across 18 acres. More than 1,000 people were being housed here for radicalization and training to attack India. And look at the kind of facilities they had. They had a solar field. They had 7 multi-storied buildings. They had firing ranges, swimming pools, livestock farms, even high-speed internet. A setup like this in the heart of Pakistan's Punjab, it would have cost a lot of money. Where do you think that money came from? From the Pakistani army and their intelligence wing, the ISI. Reports say the ISI used third parties to fund the Jaish-e-Mohammed. The total support is estimated to be about $15 million. That's $15 million every year, the support they give the Jaish-e-Mohammed. And that's not all. The ISI has given $30 million worth of real estate to Jaish-e-Mohammed. That explains their massive terror pad. It also explains Pakistan's game plan. First, they beg the IMF for money. Once the checks are in cash, the army takes over. And then the ISI is roped in for the dirty work. It siphons the money and gives it to terrorists. And they're doing the exact same thing this time as well. This is a well-oiled terror factory. Now look at the contrast. India is demolishing the headquarters of a globally designated terrorist, and Pakistan is compensating him with $500,000. In the end, who stands to gain? Masood Azhar, the man behind multiple terror attacks on India, the 2001 Parliament attack, the 2016 Pathankot air base attack, the 2019 Pulwama bombing. Pakistan's compensation to Masood Azhar is not a payout, it is blood money, stained with the lives of innocent Indians. And this is Pakistan's reality. Their economy is in free fall. Their people are struggling to make ends meet. Daily bread is a luxury, yet Pakistan has money for Masood Azhar. And here's the kicker. Pakistanis know how bad this is. Of course, they're living this nightmare. Thousands have fled to West Asia, only to be sent back in humiliation. We have the latest numbers. More than 5,000 Pakistanis were deported last year from countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Qatar. 5,000. Do you know why they were deported? Because they were begging. They went to West Asia and started begging, maybe taking cues from their government. But it's not funny. $500,000 for a global terrorist defies all logic. But then again, this is Pakistan. It's a country where terrorists are given state funerals, where bodies of terrorists are wrapped in the national flag, and as always, the international community is silent. No headlines, no primetime debates, not even a reluctant editorial. So let me ask the tough questions here. First to the IMF, do you know where your money is going? Is it feeding the hungry, or is it funding terror? You've given 24 bailouts to Pakistan, the highest number to any country. What are they doing with your money? Or forget Pakistan, do you know what you're doing? That's the first question. My next question is to the West. Where is the outrage? You have all the time to lecture India, but you lose your voice when it comes to Pakistan. How is a bankrupt nation funneling thousands of dollars to a terrorist? And why is the international community napping? Pakistan's priorities are not just misplaced, they are dangerous. This country exports poverty and terrorism. Pakistan may be broke, but its ideology of terror is rich. And India has paid the price for years. The West will too, if it doesn't wake up.
पाकिस्तान के एटमी हथियारों को IAEA की निगरानी में लिया जाना चाहिए।
A gun is dangerous, but a gun in the hands of a deranged criminal, it's a lot more than just dangerous. It is a public security threat. And that is what Pakistan's nuclear weapons are, a global security threat. India wants to put checks on this arsenal. The demand came from India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. He says Pakistan's nuke should be under UN supervision. Listen to this.
क्या ऐसे गैर जिम्मेदार और रोग नेशन के हाथों में परमाणु हथियार सुरक्षित हैं? मैं दुनिया के सामने यह सवाल खड़ा करना चाहता हूं। मैं मानता हूं कि पाकिस्तान के एटमी हथियारों को IAEA इंटरनेशनल एटॉमिक एनर्जी एजेंसी की निगरानी में लिया जाना चाहिए।
The United Nations watchdog is the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA. Its job is to inspect civilian nuclear sites and reactors to ensure that they are not used for making bombs. Now, India says put Pakistani nukes under IAEA supervision. And what is Pakistan saying? Of course, they have rejected India's demand. Let me quote from Pakistan's statement. This is what they say. These irresponsible remarks reveal profound insecurity and frustration regarding Pakistan's effective defense and deterrence against Indian aggression through conventional means. Pakistan's conventional capabilities are adequate to deter India. Let's not kid ourselves. Pakistan is scared of India's conventional weapons. That is why they have a first use policy. It's the opposite of New Delhi. India won't fire nukes until there is a nuclear attack. That is India's policy. But Pakistan says it can fire nukes if there is any attack. This is what India calls nuclear blackmail. The question is the United Nations going to stop it? Can they stop it? First, let's look at the case for nuclear oversight. In every country, nuclear weapons are controlled by civilian leaders. In America, in India, in France, even in a rogue state like North Korea, the finger on the button is that of a civilian. But not in Pakistan. In Pakistan, the nukes are controlled by the generals. The army chief has his finger on the button. Secondly, the arsenal is vulnerable. Other nuclear powers are stable regimes. They may or may not be democratic countries and societies, but the regime is stable. Again, that's not the case in Pakistan. They face separatist fighters in Balochistan. They face Taliban terrorists in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And both of them are fighting the Pakistani state. In fact, the Pakistani Taliban has made its intentions quite clear. They want to topple the regime in Islamabad. If that happens, who will control the nukes? Islamist terrorists, they will control the nuclear weapons of Pakistan. It's a chilling prospect to think about. And successive US presidents have talked about it. Listen to Donald Trump in 2017.
In Afghanistan and Pakistan, America's interests are clear. We must stop the resurgence of safe havens that enable terrorists to threaten America. And we must prevent nuclear weapons and materials from coming into the hands of terrorists and being used against us or anywhere in the world, for that matter.
His successor, Joe Biden, also spoke about it. Biden called Pakistan one of the most dangerous places on earth. Why? Because their nukes lack cohesion. Of course, Pakistan rejects all these concerns. They say the nukes are for defense, not offense. Which brings us to India's demand. Can the UN watchdog supervise Pakistan's nuclear weapons? Well, on paper, yes. But in reality, it's impossible. The watchdog's mandate covers countries that signed the NPT. What is the NPT? The Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. This came into effect in 1970. According to the NPT, there are only 5 legal nuclear powers in the world. Only 5 countries that can legally have nuclear weapons: the United States, the United Kingdom, France, China, Russia. Only these 5 countries were allowed to have nukes. All other signatories were banned. Take Iran, for example. They signed the NPT. And that's why the UN is supervising their nuclear program, or at least trying to supervise it. Pakistan has not signed the NPT, so technically, Pakistan is beyond the UN's mandate. Having said that, the UN Security Council can still get involved. They can impose sanctions on Pakistan's nuclear program. They can also try to place the nukes under supervision. But the problem is obvious. Pakistan's iron brother China is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. They will veto any such proposal. So as things stand, India's demand is unlikely to find takers. But that is no reason to give up, because Pakistan's nuclear arsenal is not just a regional threat, it is a global threat. They have around 170 warheads with them. 170 warheads. That's enough to annihilate all of South Asia. And do not forget, Pakistan also has nuclear-capable bomber planes, meaning they can drop nukes in far-off countries as well. If this is not a global threat, I don't know what is. The West keeps asking Iran to abandon its nuclear program. They ask North Korea to denuclearize, yet they are silent on Pakistan. India is trying to break that silence. It may or may not work, but this is an important message. Nuclear weapons are not toys of rhetoric. They are weapons capable of unimaginable pain and destruction. Only stable democracies can be trusted with them, not countries that are one bad day away from a coup or terrorist takeover. Our next story begins like a Bollywood movie, with 2 brothers, not the kind who get lost in affair, but the kind who find each other in conflict. On one side is Pakistan, battling a mountain of debt. On the other side is Turkey, led by an ambitious but delusional strongman. Their so-called brotherhood was put to the test last week in the conflict between India and Pakistan, and Turkey did not blink. It backed Pakistan loudly and clearly. Their president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, declared it. He said, Ankara will stand by Islamabad in good times and bad.
We reiterated our strong support to the people of Pakistan. We always underline that we do not want any conflict in our region and beyond.
Now, this love affair is not new. Every year, the Turkish president takes the stage at the United Nations General Assembly, but his speechwriters don't have to work too hard, because he says the same thing, copy-pasted from the old speech. Erdogan talks about Kashmir. He never forgets it. He brings it up. He repeats it again and again on the world stage, even though India has made it crystal clear that Kashmir is a bilateral issue.
One of the problems to which the international community fails to devote enough attention is the Kashmiri conflict, awaiting a solution for 72 years. Kashmir is still besieged, and 8 million people are still stuck in Kashmir.
The Kashmir conflict, which is also key to the stability and peace of South Asia, is still a burning issue.
We maintain our stance in favor of solving the ongoing problem in Kashmir for 74 years through dialogue between the parties. We hope and pray that a fair and a permanent peace and prosperity will be established in Kashmir. Another development that will pave the way for regional peace, stability and prosperity in South Asia will be the establishment of a just and lasting peace in Kashmir.
In 2019, he said Kashmiris are under blockade. In 2020, he called it a burning issue. In 2021, he called for dialogue. In 2022, he called for permanent peace. And in 2023, Erdogan called for India and Pakistan to engage for lasting peace. Do you see the pattern? Erdogan keeps inserting himself into this like an uninvited guest at a family feud. And he does not stop there. He gives drones to Pakistan to fire at India. We've told you about this. Turkish drones played a significant role in this conflict. Reports say Pakistan used two kinds of Turkish drones this time, the Songar and the Yiha. India's air defenses intercepted and shot them down, but we also now know the full spectrum of their partnership. Pakistan and Turkey, a solidarity in words and in arms. The question is why? What explains this love affair? Why is Erdogan so keen on backing Pakistan? And the answer is this. It is not about Pakistan. It is about Erdogan himself. He has a bigger goal/pipe dream. He wants to lead the Islamic world. And full marks for perseverance. He's been at it forever. First, he pitched Turkey as a modern Muslim democracy. He wanted to join the European Union. That application has been pending for almost 4 decades. So a jilted Erdogan made a pivot. He sought the leadership of the Muslim world. Back in the 2010s, he probably had some momentum. Erdogan was pro-Palestine and anti-Israel. He was thundering against the West. He was building mosques in Africa. He backed the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. He tried to fill the vacuum in a crumbling West Asia. He wanted to reclaim the Ottoman glory, to put Turkey at the center of the Muslim world. But soon, it all unraveled. The Muslim Brotherhood was crushed in Egypt. Gulf monarchies saw Erdogan as a threat. Syria turned into a quagmire. And at home, Erdogan's domestic politics became extreme. His own house was on fire, censorship, crackdown on dissent, and a slumping economy. All of it took the shine off his global brand. The Islamic world moved on. His caliphate bid fizzled. But Erdogan never gave up on the dream. Which brings us to Pakistan. Pakistan proved to be the perfect partner for Turkey. Pakistan is a Sunni majority Muslim country. It is nuclear armed. It is anti-India by default. And it is desperate for friends who do not come with IMF paperwork. So Erdogan leans in hard. He praises Pakistan at every opportunity. He invokes Kashmir at the United Nations. And in doing so, he casts himself as the voice of oppressed Muslims. What does Pakistan do? It returns the love. It buys Turkish weapons.
You have also led from the front, speaking for the problems and speaking for the rights of oppressed people, be it the people of Gaza, Palestine or Kashmir.
But this relationship is not equal. In fact, it is not even sincere, because while Erdogan woos Pakistan, Turkish companies woo India. This is where they want to do business, in India. Take Celebi Aviation, for example. This is a Turkish firm. It operates at 9 major Indian airports. This company is responsible for critical operations. It handles over 58,000 flights a year, moving 500,000 tons of cargo and employing nearly 8,000 people. Now, India has cracked down on this firm. Its security clearance has been cancelled. The Delhi airport has formally ended its association with this Turkish firm. Meanwhile, Indian tourists are boycotting Turkey. In 2014, about 120,000 Indians travelled to Turkey. Last year, that number increased to 330,000, 330,000. It's an increase of about 176% over the past decade. In 2024, Indians spent around $350 to $400 million in Turkey, but that is now changing. Reports suggest that bookings are down by more than 60%. Cancellations are up by 250%. So the writing is on the wall for Turkey. You cannot play both sides. If Erdogan wants to back Pakistan to burnish his resume on Islamic leadership, Turkish businesses and its tourism will have to pay the price. They must respect India's red lines or get used to closed doors. This morning, Indian forces carried out an operation. It happened in Jammu and Kashmir's Pulwama. The forces zeroed in on 3 terrorists. They were hiding in an under-construction building. When they saw the Indian security forces, they opened fire, and they got a fit response. Indian forces eliminated all 3 terrorists. All 3 of them were affiliated to the Jaish-e-Mohammed. This is a Pakistani terror outfit. This encounter comes just days after another operation where Indian forces killed 3 terrorists with links to the Lashkar-e-Toiba. This is part of India's sustained counter-terror efforts. Meanwhile, the hunt for the Pahalgam attackers is still on. Here's a report.
The operation started early this morning in Jammu and Kashmir. Security forces received intel inputs. This included the joint forces of the Indian Army, the Jammu and Kashmir Police Force and the Central Reserve Police Force or the CRPF. They received information about the presence of terrorists in South Kashmir's Pulwama district, specifically in the Nadir village of Tral in Pulwama. So the joint team of forces cordoned off the village. They began a search operation and in no time they zeroed in on their target. Drone footage captured 3 terrorists who were hiding in an under-construction building. Holding their weapons, the terrorists opened fire and tried to break the security cordon. This led to a gun battle where our forces eliminated the armed terrorists. All 3 of them were affiliated with the Jaish-e-Mohammed, namely Asif Ahmad Sheikh, Amir Nazirwani and Yawar Ahmad Bhatt. They belonged to the same terror outfit that's banned in Pakistan but continues to operate as part of Islamabad's terror factory, Sayyidna Bilal Camp. This is the very group whose stronghold was attacked by New Delhi during the May 7th strikes. Now, 3 of their terrorists have been gunned down by the Indian forces. And this comes just 2 days after the Indian forces kicked off Operation Herof. They carried out an encounter and neutralized 3 terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir's Shoykal Keller. This gave Operation Herof its name. Among the killed terrorists was Shahid Kutte. He was a crucial target. This man was the chief of TRF, the Resistance Front, which is nothing but a proxy name used by the terror outfit Lashkar-e-Toiba, who unleashed the massacre in Pahalgam on the 22nd of April. And this is not all. After the Pahalgam horror, authorities have demolished the homes of at least 10 terrorists. Kutte's home was among them, and on May 13th, he was neutralized by the Indian forces. These moves are a clear signal. India will not stand for terror, and it will not stop until the terrorists who carried out the Pahalgam attack are brought to justice. It has been more than 3 weeks since the attack, but the terrorists are still at large. After the attack, reports said that 7 terrorists carried out the brutality. Then came reports of there being 4 attackers. But later on, the list was reduced to 3. One of them is a local named Hussein Thokar. The other 2 are Pakistanis. One of them is called Ali Bhai or Talha Bhai, and the other is Hasim Musa, also known as Suleiman. Jammu and Kashmir police have released sketches of the 3 terrorists. Posters have been distributed far and wide. A reward of 20 lakh rupees has been declared for people who give information about the 3 terrorists. And the search operation is still on. India has intensified the manhunt. The mission is underway. And the fight won't stop until justice is served in the Pahalgam terror case.
India and Pakistan have just come out of a military standoff. Guess who is poking their nose where it doesn't belong? China. This time with sonar sensors and surveillance radars. A Chinese ship has entered the Indian Ocean. It is called the Da Yang Yi Hao. That's the name of the ship. On paper, it's a research vessel, but on radar, it's a floating espionage hub. So what is China trying to do here? And what does it mean for India? Let me break it down for you. The Chinese ship is currently in the Indian Ocean, near India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and it is heading west towards the Arabian Sea, where the Indian Navy is deployed in big numbers, including the aircraft carrier INS Vikrant and submarines. So the Chinese ship seems to be heading towards the Indian Armada. To do what? Perhaps to track the Indian Navy's movement, or to snoop on their operations, because this Chinese ship specializes in exactly that: monitoring, tracking, and collecting data. China calls it research, the world calls it spying, and this is no ordinary vessel. The Da Yang Yi Hao. It has advanced geosensors and powerful sonar arrays. These are used to track and detect submarines. The Chinese ship also has satellite uplinks. It can monitor low-orbit satellites like the ones that India has currently repositioned to assess the damage done to Pakistan's air bases. So the Chinese ship has eyes and ears below and above the sea. And look at the timing. It comes days after India launched Operation Sindoor, a swift and strategic strike on terror camps in Pakistan. The operation also saw military confrontation. Pakistan's air bases were hit in the day and at night. Their Chinese-made jets and missiles failed to perform. Chinese air defense systems were jammed. They were left blinded by Indian jets. It was a massive failure of the Chinese tech used by Pakistan. India emerged confident, Pakistan cried foul, and China sent a ship. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. China's so-called research ships often snoop in the Indian Ocean, and this is a known fact. Since the year 2008, China has sent 46 such ships, 46 ships. They linger near strategic deployments, they track India's missile tests. Where do you think they send this data? Definitely not to some university in Beijing. Most likely to command centers of the Chinese Navy. This has been Beijing's pattern. Send a so-called research ship whenever India's military is in action. So what is their vessel doing this time? They're most likely collecting intel, like the size of India's military mobilization, or how far away is India's navy from Karachi, or whether India is moving around its weapons. Think of it as a high-tech eavesdropping effort. And how is India responding? The Navy is already on the task. They're tracking, shadowing, and watching very closely. Surveillance aircraft are tailing the Chinese ship. Warships have been put on alert because India faces a twin threat: terror state Pakistan and their backers in China, who give both weapons and diplomatic cover to Pakistan. In the past, they've given Islamabad jets, missiles, and even a spy ship. And now China has sent another intelligence-gathering ship. They feel this will keep New Delhi on edge, but India is prepared for both scenarios, for Pakistan's provocations and China's creeping expansionism. This is a high-stakes geopolitical chess match, and India is not playing blind. Now let's talk about Balochistan, a region that Pakistan first ignored, then tried to hide from the world, but now Balochistan is making global headlines. This is the largest province of Pakistan, the richest in natural resources, the lowest in population, and the worst sufferer at the hands of the Pakistani state. This province is on edge. Violence is escalating here, and calls for independence are growing louder. Over the past few months, Baloch fighters have stepped up their campaign, and at the center of it is the BLA, the Baloch Liberation Army. This is a group of separatists. They have launched a wave of attacks on the Pakistani establishment, in particular the Pakistani military. This month, the BLA launched a new operation. They're calling it Herof 2.0. Now, reports say Herof means black storm in the Balochi language. Some interpretations also say it means revenge. Whatever the meaning, the impact has been devastating for Pakistan. The BLA has targeted 58 locations so far, 58 locations this month, targeted by the Baloch Liberation Army. They have launched 78 coordinated attacks, mostly hitting military outposts and key transport routes. Now look at what happened yesterday. The BLA carried out 7 attacks in 24 hours. One group took control of a highway, they stopped vehicles, they checked trucks, and they targeted convoys. But why transport convoys? The BLA says they were looting Balochistan's mineral wealth. That is why. Next, they stormed a checkpost and set it ablaze. In another location, the BLA attacked Pakistan's military, and this operation went on for 25 minutes. The Balochis used automatic weapons and rocket launchers. 2 Pakistani soldiers were killed, 5 others were injured. Now, there's been a flood of such reports. Some accounts contradict each other. It is difficult to verify each and every report, also because Balochistan remains isolated and cut off from the world. But not for very long, because this campaign is gaining momentum. The campaign to free Balochistan, it is growing bigger with the help of social media. Key words like Republic of Balochistan are trending. So is the Baloch Liberation Army and Balochistan Independence. In recent days, Baloch activists have made a direct appeal to India. They have announced the Republic of Balochistan, that's what they're calling it, the Republic of Balochistan. They have declared Balochistan's independence from Pakistan, and now they want diplomatic support. They want international visibility. One activist drew parallels with 1971, urging India to support them like India supported Bangladesh in 1971. He said India should host a symbolic Baloch embassy in New Delhi. They're also trying to draw the attention of the United Nations. Now, this is a bold statement, largely symbolic, but also a reflection of how the people of Balochistan feel. They've been persecuted and wronged by Pakistan's political leadership. They've been victimized by Pakistan's military with brutal killings and forced disappearances. And as they raise their voice again, Pakistan is cracking down hard. There are reports of raids, arrests, and military crackdowns. Last month, Asim Munir issued a warning. That's the army chief of Pakistan. He issued a warning, and this is what he said. We will beat the hell out of these terrorists very soon. It was meant as a threat to silence the Baloch separatist movement. But it has only fueled the fire. And Pakistan's generals are struggling to contain it. In fact, the situation in Balochistan is so bad that some experts believe that Pahalgam was planned as a distraction. Because the Pakistani military was desperate to shift focus, so they ordered an attack in Kashmir to stir conflict with India and brush the internal chaos under the carpet. Unfortunately for them, the strategy has not worked. If anything, it has backfired. The crisis at home is getting harder to contain and impossible to hide for Pakistan. Back to Donald Trump. His West Asian tour is still going strong. Yesterday, he was in Saudi Arabia walking the lavender carpet and calling the Syrian president attractive. The Saudis gave him a $600 billion bait. We told you all about it. After that, he hopped on a short flight to Qatar, another Gulf kingdom, another royal welcome. And this one too started well before Trump landed in Qatar. The moment he entered Qatar's airspace, 2 F-15 jets escorted Trump's plane. The Air Force One. Take a look at this.
Nice house. Nice house. Just something like that.
So that was the kind of welcome he received. From there, it was the red carpet, a guard of camels, as you just saw, a handshake with Qatar's Emir, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, a grand motorcade led by Tesla Cybertrucks, and a lot of royal pageantry. It's what the US president likes. And he seemed pretty impressed by it, especially the marble at the royal palace.
The job you've done is second to none. You look at this, it's so beautiful. As a construction person, I'm seeing perfect marble. This is what they call perfecto. And just a great job you've done, and what a beautiful place. And we appreciate those camels. I haven't seen camels like that in a long time.
Soon it was down to business. And again, the big numbers made the headlines. The US and Qatar signed deals worth $1.2 trillion. The focus was on technology like anti-drone tech and energy investments. Qatar wants to become an AI powerhouse, and it hopes that Washington can help it.
We've been friends for a long time, long before politics. Well, for you it was politics, for me it wasn't, right? But we've been friends for a long time, and this is an outstanding man. He's a great man, and we're going to help each other.
But the headline that Trump wanted was this: Qatar Airways agreed to buy 210 Boeing jets. This is a deal worth around $96 billion US. It is the largest ever order of 787 Dreamliners and a shot in the arm for the embattled company Boeing.
Boeing, that's the largest order of jets in the history of Boeing. That's pretty good. And that's 140. Was that a 140 or 160? Well, yeah, but you're right. It's actually 200, including the 40, so it's over $200 billion. But 160 in terms of the jets. That's fantastic. So that's a record, Kelly. And congratulations to Boeing. Get those planes out there.
Trump says it's worth $200 billion, but the deal is for $96 billion, according to the government fact sheet. And this wasn't the only deal. Qatar is buying drone and anti-drone technology from the Americans. These are from companies like Raytheon. But here's the most controversial one. Qatar is gifting a jet to Donald Trump, a $400 million jet, a luxury Boeing 747-8. It's a gift from Qatar to Donald Trump. If allowed, it will be the largest in the history of the US presidency, the biggest such gift to a president. The ethics are murky, to say the least. The opposition Democrats in the US are slamming it, and so are many Republicans. But Qatar has vehemently defended it.
First of all, we bought this airplane from an American company. It's basically part of a cooperation that we've been doing a lot together between Qatar and the United States.
Now, you may wonder, why is Qatar so invested in Donald Trump? Why are they giving him such an expensive jet? It's basically a bribe. You see, Qatar is a very small country, around 11,000 square kilometers. That's smaller than some American states. It has a population of just 2.7 million people. Their GDP is just 1/4 of Saudi Arabia, but Qatar was always hungry for power. And it punches well above its weight. In the 1990s, US-Saudi ties hit a rough patch. Riyadh was not too keen on having American boots on its soil. They did not want to host American soldiers. So the Pentagon, which is the US Defense Ministry, started looking for a new home in the Gulf. Enter Doha. That's the capital of Qatar. The rulers in Doha rolled out the welcome mat, and the US military set up shop at the Al Udeid Air Base. Today, it is the forward headquarters of the US Central Command. In fact, Trump visited that base today.
Soon have the world's first and only sixth-generation fighter jet, the F-47. Why did they name it 47? Does anybody know? I don't know. 2026 budget includes across the board. Maybe you don't want it. Look, for the good of the country, you don't have to take it. Pay raises for each and every one of you, substantial pay raises.
Going back to the Qatar US deal, it was a pretty straightforward one. The US keeps Qatar's royal family safe, the deal that they signed in the 90s, or the deal they agreed to. The US keeps Qatar's royal family safe, and in return, Qatar gives the US a strategic launch pad in West Asia. That was the deal. It's been 3 decades, and that hasn't changed. Qatar hosts the Americans. It also hosts Islamists and terrorists. It hosts the likes of the Muslim Brotherhood, the Taliban, even Hamas. Qatar has leverage on all sides, and Washington does not object. Do you know why? Because Qatar is not your average US ally. They have an outsized role in American strategy, a role they've built over many, many years. A recent investigation revealed how wide this was. Qatar has spent nearly $100 billion to buy influence in the US. $100 billion, look at the numbers. First is education. Qatar is the largest foreign funder of American higher education. It has spent $6.3 billion since 1986. The Qatar Foundation International gives millions of dollars to American public schools. This is to fund Arabic programs. Then there's media. They already have Al Jazeera, the television channel based in Doha. On paper, it has editorial freedom from the Qatari regime, but we know that it is soft on Islamist elements in West Asia. Plus, Qatar funds US media organizations as well, the likes of Newsmax. Then there are think tanks. From 2019 to 2023, Qatar has given $9 million to American think tanks. This includes the Brookings Institution, and the Qataris are also lobbying. Since 2017, they have spent $225 million on lobbying in Washington, D.C. So what does Qatar want in return? It wants a seat at the table. It wants limited criticism and preaching from the United States, and it wants a US foreign policy that works in Qatar's favor. So Trump's jet is not just a gift. It is a long-term bet. Qatar knows how important it is to be in Trump's good books. And what better investment than a grand gift? In global diplomacy, that's not just friendship, that is insurance. It's been a roller coaster day in Istanbul thanks to the war in Ukraine. Recently, Russian President Vladimir Putin rejected the call for a 30-day truce. Instead, he asked for direct talks with Kiev. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky agreed to the talks. So the meeting was supposed to happen today in Turkey. First in the morning, then in the afternoon. It is evening in Istanbul now, but still no Russia-Ukraine talks. After a day of uncertainty, there is only one point that is clear. The highly anticipated talks will happen, but Putin won't be there. Zelensky says he won't be there either. And following suit, neither will the US President Donald Trump. He had earlier hinted at attending these talks. But now he is weighing in from the Gulf, saying that nothing is going to happen until Putin and he get together. Here's a report.
Russian President Vladimir Putin, a no-show. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky blustering about. US President Donald Trump weighing in from the Gulf. The highly anticipated talks between Russia and Ukraine in Turkey today descended into chaos and confusion. Both Ukrainian and Russian delegates arrived, but they were in different cities. For us, there was no confirmation on who will meet, when and where. But the talks are set to happen, making the first face-to-face talks since 2022.
I'm here. I think this is very clear message.
Recently, Putin rejected the call for a 30-day truce. Instead, he asked for direct talks with Kyiv. Zelensky quickly agreed. He said that he was ready to meet, but that he would not meet any other Russian official apart from Putin. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump hinted at upending his Gulf visit schedule and joining the talks.
You know, if something happened, I'd go on Friday if it was appropriate.
Earlier this week, the Turkish government said that it will provide all kinds of support.
Thank you. How are you? Good.
But after days of speculation earlier today, the Kremlin announced that Putin will not travel to Turkey. Instead, the Russian delegation is headed by Vladimir Medinsky. He's Putin's senior aide, and he led the last known direct talks with Ukraine 3 years ago. He is in Istanbul for the talks. Meanwhile, Zelensky is in the Turkish capital of Ankara. He's met with the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He has called the Russian delegation phony and accused the Kremlin of sending theater props. Russia's foreign ministry has hit back, calling Zelensky a clown and a loser. According to the latest reports, the Ukrainian team will hold talks with the Russia delegation, but Zelensky will not be there. The timing of the meeting has also been heavily disputed. According to the Russian state news agency, the meeting was set to start at 10 a.m. local time today. Ukraine called it fake news. Then the Russian Foreign Ministry said that the meeting has been postponed to the afternoon. But the Turkish government disagreed. The afternoon has come and gone. In the evening, a confirmation came from the Ukrainian side, and Zelensky said that the meeting will take place. So, how is the United States viewing this? Well, with lukewarm regard. While Trump is not in Turkey, his Secretary of State Marco Rubio is. He's there to attend an informal NATO meeting in Antalya. Trump, meanwhile, has said that Putin's absence doesn't disappoint him, but
Nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay? And obviously he wasn't going to go. He was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going if I wasn't there. And I don't believe anything's going to happen, whether you like it or not, until he and I get together.
So, what does this diplomatic hide-and-seek mean for the war in Ukraine? Russia says that it sees the direct talks as a positive step. Their delegation head Medinsky has also said that Russia is prepared for possible compromises. The stakes are high. Both Trump and Ukraine's European allies have said that they will impose more sanctions on Moscow if it doesn't agree to a ceasefire. But will that be enough to bring Putin to the negotiating table and agree to a truce?
What do you think happens when world leaders meet? I'm sure there are serious talks. I'm sure there are lighter moments too. The serious stuff makes it into the official statement, but the lighter moments do not, unless, of course, the leaders reveal it themselves. And that's what happened in Moscow. President Putin is hosting the Malaysian Prime Minister. He gave him a tour of the St. Andrew Hall at the Kremlin. While there, Putin riddled the Malaysian PM. He asked him about 3 chairs placed in the throne room. His response? Perhaps even the Russian president did not expect it. Listen in.
I have just told Mr. Prime Minister what St. Andrew's Hall is. There are 3 thrones there, and I asked Prime Minister, so there are 3 thrones. One of them is for the Tsar, the second one is for his wife, and what do you think, the 3rd throne, what is it for? Who is it for? And without even thinking, Prime Minister said for the second wife. I have to say that our traditional values maybe are not the same, but the exchange of information is always useful for both parties. Thank you very much.
I have to respond. I only have one wife, Mr. President.
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Hair-swinging dancers greet US President Donald Trump in Abu Dhabi. Ben & Jerry's co-founder was arrested after disrupting a Senate hearing, and a wildlife center staffers wear suits to take care of a tiny orphaned cub. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1948, the first Arab-Israel war broke out. It came just a day after Israel was founded. Troops from 5 Arab states attacked the country, but it was a poorly coordinated campaign. Israel proved to be the stronger force. The war ended in 1949, leaving Israel with control over more territory. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
By kicking kids off Medicaid. They need to let food into Gaza. They need to let food to starving kids. Congress is paying to bomb poor kids in Gaza and paying for it by kicking poor kids off.
At Firstpost, we are choosing to hold on to accuracy. That means we won't always be first. We may not get you your breaking alert. But what you will get is what we owe you. And that is the truth. Verified, checked, and cross-checked. We rely on sources and verified ones. After all, that's what separates a journalist from a loudspeaker. But sometimes even we miss a beat. And when we do, we will tell you. Like yesterday, we ran visuals from a registered news agency. That visual turned out to be fake, so we are taking accountability. And from now on, we will cite the source of every visual, every picture, every video that you see on Firstpost will have a source mentioned. That is our commitment to you. We will wait, we will verify, we will ask again, and only then will we tell you. No noise, no panic, just the facts. Because right now, that is what the country needs most.